Hi, good afternoon, everybody. This is our fourth Wednesday of the month speaker meeting of East Bay Gray Panthers, or Gray Panthers of Berkeley and the East Bay. I'm Betsy Morris. I'm your co-convener along with Carol Crooks. We essentially chair the board and play the host role and moderate our speaker meetings, which are informational and educational forums that happen regularly. If you are here today, it's probably because you have been to our website, East Bay Gray Panthers, but you may have been personally invited, and you're completely welcome, and please spread the word. If you did not happen to RSVP or are not already in the database of our East Bay Gray Panthers website, please consider doing that. So you'll get a few emails a month from the eastbaygraypanthers.org email. We also invite any of you who would like to become voting members of Gray Panthers to check out that portion of the website. The board, just want to let everybody know, the board voted to extend the membership dues that includes a $5 hardship annual dues payment for at least another year, because we'd rather have you here and voting than not. Otherwise, our regular dues are $35 a year, and our bylaws say that that's or $15 a year for lower income. So consider joining, and then you get personal calls as well as more emails about politics, upcoming actions and things like that, although we try not to drown everybody. Our board also meets once a month, and most of the time members are welcome to come. So I wanted to let you know that we are meeting March 5th, Wednesday, March 5th, and sometimes we meet in person as a board, sometimes we meet on Zoom. And among other things that we need to be talking about is our response as a group to both the projected cuts to HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and also to Medicaid. So we will later today after 3 we'll have updates on our political actions. You know, where does Gray Panther show up, letters that we've written, or coalitions that we're part of, and would love anybody who wants to share to be part of that conversation after about 3 p.m. We do stay on sometimes till 4, but we try to wrap things up in a half an hour otherwise. Anyway, I'm stalling just a tad because I wanted to play, I wanted to show a trailer that I'm trying to locate now on my screen. This is a trailer from a movie. It's
You're just sharing the Panthers window at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to stop that share, and I'm going to replace it with a trailer from the film Welcome to the Neighborhood, which describes this is just a 30-second trailer to the 27-minute video that was that's available on NPR. The link was in the email invitation.
PBS.
The PBS, thank you. The invitation that you received, and on the website, there's a link to the film, the video documentary about South Berkeley. We're here today during Black History Month to honor the Black activists and community leaders from South and West Berkeley who have made history and are still with us, able to bring forward really a lost the Berkeley's loss of our Black community has personally affected me, and I'll speak a little about that later. But our honored guests today are firsthand witnesses to the beauty, the joy, and some of the tragic events and the response to issues such as homelessness that afflict us today. But I'm going to just show this trailer because if you are not familiar with the movie Welcome to the Neighborhood, it is a great introduction to the South Berkeley history of recent times. Just let me find where that is. Did you happen to put the link in on the website, Rains?
I
No.
thought I did.
Right. Okay.
But you got to start share and turn on audio.
Okay. I'll put this back on share.
With the audio box checked.
There.
It doesn't work if you've enlarged it to full screen. I think you need to escape that.
Trying to go back to find it.
It's being shared.
Okay.
I'm going to pause the recording so it doesn't interfere with it.
Newcomers and longtime Gray Panther members, visitors and honored guests. Once again, I'm Betsy Morris. I'm the co-convener here, and I would personally welcome every one of you, but I would like to get set up for our first speaker, Afi Tiombe Kambon. She is an actor and oral historian, both by training and currently had been just performed her piece, An Extra Jar of Molasses, at the Berkeley Repertory Theater. Black Berkeley.
The Black
Yes.
Repertory Theater.
I would not have missed that, but I did. So that, Afi, are you able to share your picture, or are you doing a verbal audio?
No, I only can do verbal, honey.
Okay. I feel like I just want to say the five of us who were able to go on last Saturday to see Afi perform, it was so moving and so strong. I hope it's been taped and made available again sometime soon. So let me present Miss Afi. She is a lifelong, well, almost lifelong Berkeleyan, West and South Berkeley, and went to our schools.
No, I am a lifelong. I'm my parents.
You were born here.
When I was born,
Okay.
they lived in Carneses Village.
I'm going to let you go. It's your time now, Af.
Okay.
Tell us what you want.
Thank you for inviting me, number one. And also, I always admired the Great Panthers. I just felt that they were very much needed in our community. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the Queen first. Now, the Queen, her father, King Kuwa the First, is recorded as being the first Black king in Africa to sign a treaty with European factors. Okay, and then his son, King Kuwa II, he canceled the treaty. And Queen Umzinga, she followed in her father's footsteps. Okay, so now the first, from my study, the first blacks that were that came to the Americas. Well, I'm not talking about the ones that came before slavery, but the ones that came from slavery. They were sent to the Americas, and it was in South America then, to build a Christian world. Okay, and then the King Kuwa II, Umzinga's father, they get word that they're mistreating the people that they're sending, because they would baptize them and everything and send them to the New World to build a Christian world. That they are mistreating these people. They're treating them brutally. And so that's why he canceled it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do about maybe about 4 to 5 minutes of the Queen, that Queen Umzinga, and then I'm going to talk about Owen Brown and his son John Brown. Okay, okay. I'm going, and listen, I do it in first person. I am an oral historian, but I do it in first person because I not only want you to see it, hear it, I want you to see what happened. So now many of the words that I use are direct quotes that I got out of history books. And then I weave it together and record the history. Okay, this is an extra, it's 24 minutes, but I'm only going to do about 5 minutes. Okay. Kaduna, send the bravest men to burn their ships. Burn them to the bottom of the sea. No, once their ships have been destroyed, we will make tracks to the inlands. These invaders have weapons superior to our own. Therefore, once we attack, we must flee for our lives. They have cannons and gunfire that burst upon us like thunder to combat our plain weapons of bows, arrows, spears, shields, and poison knives. I have studied military strategy since age 8, yet many of my plots are overpowered by their advanced weaponry. Therefore, I must not only use my wit, but shrewdness to break their stronghold on our land, or I dread we will all die in captivity. I am Queen Umzinga of the Matambo Ndongo Nation, born Ann Umzinga, but no longer use the name Ann. Not that the name is offensive to my ears, but to accept this name is to embrace foreign oppression and abomination to our land. You see, these invaders consider us savages who would be better off enslaved, but their real intent is to control our mineral mines of gold, lead, and iron, and to use our bodies for their purposes alone. And do not send my manly clothes. In this crusade, I dress like a man to conceal my identity and to urge the men to fight for the nation's liberty and not for the Queen's safety. So in battle, I am not Queen Umzinga, but King Umzinga. These invaders have declared me their servant and wish for me to honor their declaration. Their weaponry forces kingdoms to follow tax orders to capture our people for sales in a distant land. Hundreds of leaders had been assassinated, murdered, slaughtered, who refused to obey these foreign taxes of abducting villagers from their homes for sales in a distant land. Our military purpose is to expel these foreigners and their ideas from our land. These are merely when we march against the foreigners and countrymen who violate this law, where I have declared this land free, and all men and women are emancipated on this land. And we will march up against all foreigners and countrymen who violate this law. One foe's death may claim 100 of our own men's lives. So our best defense against their weapons are numbers. Therefore, we come like ants to our death. Our sun-bleached bones lay like mounds upon the earth. Death is our major defense. Those who refuse to be enslaved die. The kidnapped villagers commit suicide. They pass poison amongst themselves. They smother their babies. Yes, we send men to infiltrate their armies, and we patrol the slave trade routes to free the captured. I know not what the future will bring, but it is my deepest fear that I be born in a strange land. Yes, I was born in Kentucky. I don't know exactly when, because ain't nobody ever told me. Okay, so now I'm going to finish that, and then I'm going to talk about Owen Brown and his son, John Brown. Now, I've seen 2 movies done about displaying John Brown, and they display him as some crazy white man that woke up one morning and said, I'm going to free these, in those days, they didn't, call them slaves, but I'm going to free these people. Oh, what are you barking about? Quiet. And then, so his father, now Owen Brown, he lived during the 1776 liberation. And he advocated for the indentured servants and the African slaves. And then his son, John Brown, followed in his footsteps. And they say also that his grandfather was involved as well. But I don't have any history about that. So, John, I really, admired John Brown. Out of all of the European, his abolitionists, I admired him. Because now, when I was growing up in the 60s, they would have pictures of John Brown in the Black community. So that's the reason why I studied him. So he would, what they would call, steal slaves and march them to Canada. Now, he had sons, 5 sons, that followed in his footsteps. And then there were also other men, including free black men, that would go on these raids to steal the black or the slaves and march them to Canada. Now, they would say that the slaves are ignorant and they're dumb and they're mentally retarded. Well, now, according to history, that when they started breeding children and that they would beat them so and hit them and slap them, they said some of the light-skinned ones, you could see handprints in their face from beatings. And so John Brown said he tried to get some of the abolitionists to purchase him slaves. And he said that if you treat them like men, if you raise them like human beings, they are just as intelligent as we are. Okay? But that never happened. So they captured some slaves, or as you know, in history, he stole them, he committed treason, what have you. And he was tracking these slaves to Canada, and there was a young boy that was cleaving to him that, you could tell that John Brown said he could tell that he really cared about him and he was hanging close to him. And he did decide to keep that young boy. And he named him the Emperor. Now, in history, he is recorded as Emperor Green because his slave owner was named Green. So he raised this boy as his own son. Now, both him and the Emperor was captured in the Harper Ferry. John Brown decided that he said he was going to capture Harper Ferry, which was an armory for the military. And he figured if he could get all these arms, that he can arm people, and let's fight against these slave owners. However, he was captured. Now, his sons, his sons, which I believe it was 5, and also there was other European Americans, and there were free black men. When they came to Harper Ferry, they was completely surrounded. And so they could not break in to the interior or try to help their father or the commander, which was John Brown. However, the Emperor, he said, I got to go to the old man. And he rode through the military forces that had them surrounded at Harper Ferry. And, of course, they were both captured. Now, according to history, they said that, that John Brown and the Emperor, and also it was another a freed black man, they was hung because they committed treason. And so when they John Brown had this is what I wanted to say is that John Brown, I wanted to write a film strip on him and Nat Turner, who was a black abolitionist, because they was born in the in 1831, and they also used the Bible to communicate. You know, they was quoting scriptures all the time. So, you know, I sort of wanted, I took a film strip, several film strip writing classes, and I wanted to, because of the way they displayed him and Nat Turner. So anyway, John Brown talked to his son and to the other gentleman that was captured that day. And he told them that let us not, you know how when they hang somebody, they be wiggling and their feet and all, you know, what have you, they be shaking and everything. He told them, let us just die. Let us not wiggle and squiggle. And that's what they did. And this is recorded in history, that they simply just died. Their feet didn't move or nothing. So, and that is recorded in history. Okay. So that is the end of my presentation.
You're
One
muted.
second. We're getting
Yeah,
that to
thank
unmuted.
you. Thank you. Is that, are we applauding? I think people, if you unmute and applaud or send Afi.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see all the snapping fingers and claps. Anybody else?
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the history lesson and the education.
That's Arlene
Yes.
Hip, our co-host for today until our co-convener shows up. I see hearts rising. Afi, can you take a couple questions now, and then at the end of the series of our guests and our speakers, then we can have a more open discussion, and you all can even talk among yourselves and share your thoughts with us. Would you take a few questions now?
Sure, indeed.
I'm just wondering if there's hands raised. I will just ask you if there's something, what led you to get involved and use the arts and oral history, your deep study of African American diaspora, African studies. Maybe you could speak a little more to the education and the pathways that led you to this kind of work and path.
When I was a kid at Longfellow, I was at Longfellow School, and they was talking about Black people being enslaved, and I asked my teacher, I said, well, why did they treat us so badly? And she said simply, we needed their work. We needed for them to build this country. And, that didn't really because as a child, I felt humiliated by this being a slave, and showing that they beat us and they showed that we didn't have no clothes on. And that was a lie. When they tracked us to the boats, to put us on the boats, they would take our clothes and jewelry off and then give us pieces of string and burlap to tie around our private parts. And of course, we land on shelves and not being able to relieve ourselves other than where we laid. Of course, they said that the slave ship, you could smell it hundreds of miles away. That's how bad the odor was, Okay, then there was another. I went to college. I went to Cal State Hayward. And everybody had to, in order to get your BA degree, you had to take minority groups, including police officers, in order for them
Was that ethnic
especially in
studies?
Berkeley.
Or, I'm sorry, was it minority group like sociology or ethnic studies?
Well, it was sociology.
Okay,
It
thank
was
you.
sociology, and everybody had to take it in order to get their BA degree. So this teacher, he was teaching, he talked about all the different minorities. But when he got to black people, he said we was born inferior. And I stood up at age 20, 21, I can't remember exact, but I was young. And I was beseeching this man my humanity. And I told him, I said, no, we're human beings. We're not born inferior. And he says to me, he says, well, if you guys was not born inferior, you would have committed suicide. That's what he said. Well, at that time, I didn't know that we did commit suicide in masses. If you can use that as a judgment to measure humanity. But I didn't know that. So I ducked my head down, and it was only 2 black people in the class at that time. It was me and a young man, a black man. And I ducked my head down in shame, okay? But I decided not to come back to that class anymore because I said, I'm not going to pass no exam saying I'm inferior, And so I went to the Black History chairperson at that time and told him about it. And I could tell that he was overwhelmed because most of the black students were having problems with their teachers at that time. Because they considered us inferior. They didn't want us there. One of the teachers that I took a class with, he said that he remembered when blacks started coming to Cal State Hayward, that a lot of teachers were upset about it because they didn't feel that black people should be in their schools. But anyway, so I told this chairperson, I can't finish this class. So I had him talk to the teacher, at least give me a D, because you had to have at least a D to graduate. And that's what I did. I took a D because I was not going to take this man's class. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So now let me talk about South Berkeley and West Berkeley. Now, I live in West Berkeley now. My parents bought this building when I was about 12 or 13 years old. But they originally bought a house in Berkeley, in South Berkeley, on Derby Street, Derby and Martin Luther King. And at that time, 44% of Berkeley was black. Now, you're not going to find that on Google. I don't know what happened, but it's not going to be on Google. But 44% of the blacks were, the population was black, or it probably was inclusive of the mixed group. Like, okay, a lot of, I don't like to use the term interracial because it makes it sound like there's more than one race. It's only one race, the human race. But ethnic group, it was against the law for black and white to marry, or Chinese or Mexican, but mainly black and white. So they came to Berkeley. Oh, okay. There were many that came from the South, the southern part of America. Like my parents, they came from the South, seeking humanity, equality. And the other people were of mixed heritage. They came because it was against the law to marry a Black person. So many of my friends at that time, when I was growing up, they were mixed heritage.
Mm.
So, you know, it was like, okay, I don't know if any of you watched the Jeffersons years ago, and George Jefferson, he used to call the mixed heritage people zebra. Well, one time they called Berkeley Zebra City because there were so many mixed couples that came here because they could be hung. That was well documented. They would hang them. They would not only hang the Black person. Now, generally, it was Black men and white women, but there was others as well. And they would not only hang them or tar and feather them, they would do the white person as well. They had to leave out of different states to have a relationship. So now, when I was growing up, I thought everybody went to the NAACP meetings. Okay. I didn't, you know, I was a little kid and I thought we all went. So there was a family where this European American woman, she married a African American, and she had a son before she married this African American. And I was friends with his sister. And, you know, in those days, Black men, they had walks. You know, they had like, I mean, you could tell that they was proud by the way they walked. And this particular young man, now he was a teenager and I was a kid because I was a youngster at Longfellow, and he was proud to be hanging out. You know, he lived in South Berkeley, which South Berkeley, like I said, was, you know, basically totally Black. They called South Berkeley Black Piedmont because everybody kept their yards up, pristine houses. They kept painted, what have you. And he called himself Pink Nigger. And I mean, he was proud. He would walk with the other brothers. Well, in those days, brothers meant Black. Sisters meant Black. And so he would walk with the other brothers walking down the street. And then when I was in high school, there was one in West Berkeley because there was a number of European Americans that lived in West Berkeley. But most of West Berkeley at that time, or I'm going to say at least 50% was Black. So I'm assuming that he grew up in an area that was more Black than European because he walked like the brothers, talked like the brothers. Now, he had blonde hair. And he dressed like the brothers and everything. And I don't know what his name was, but you could tell he was proud to be hanging around with Black people. So that, if you have any questions, ask them. But I
Miss Effie, we're going to pause and go to our next speaker who has
okay.
a different
Okay.
experience, Winston Burton. You know him
Oh,
well.
Winston,
You're
yes,
both officers, long time with the NAACP Berkeley chapter. And Winston came here as a young man and spent most of a good number of years working in job training and also with homeless work with better opportunities for self-sufficiency. And Winston, came here at age 19, and he talks also some similar history. And then after Winston speaks, I was going to invite Sean Scott to speak. He's the director of the Berkeley Black Repertory Theater. So, and then we can open up, each of them may have a few questions to answer, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So thank you once again. If we can, I don't know if you can see us, Afi, but just thank you. There's
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
a lot of memories. Yeah, Winston, are you coming up here?
Oh, here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say that Ashley was my secretary at the NAACP for several years. I was the vice president, and I hope she comes back. She was great at that job, okay? But I just want to start out with at 19, as you say, with my girlfriend, I came from West Philadelphia, which they call the Wild, Wild West. And we moved to San Francisco, and West Philadelphia was mostly African American. And so in 1968, I moved to Haight-Ashbury. And yes, I was a hippie. I must admit, okay? I loved every moment of being a hippie. And we had a child, when I was around 20, and then I needed to find a job. And so I applied at Xerox. And they had this test, which is very important in my future, called the Bennett Mechanical Aptitude Test. And I aced the test, and Xerox hired me. And so I started working in downtown San Francisco, fixing Xerox machines for many years. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew how to pass that test. So I learned the rest on the job. So most people, if you get the job, you get the opportunity. And so that was the hard part, was getting the job. And then they'll train you to do stuff, which is something I learned, and I passed on to all the students that I had after that. In the 1980s, I moved back to Philadelphia, and I started a job program at the YWCA called New Jobs for Women. It was mostly women of color, and I taught women how to fix machines, about IBM equipment and Honeywell and other things. But one of the things I focused on was interviewing, job search, and resumes. And one of the things, like in an interview, I told people, I said, if they ask you the question, tell me about yourself. Don't start off talking about how you were born and where you're from. Put the question back on them and say, what would you like to know about? My personal life or my professional life as a job? And the more you get the interviewer to speak back to you, you can focus on having the right answers for that. But most importantly, what I taught, the class I had, it was 25 women and 2 classes. What I did is I sent away for that for the Bennett Mechanical Aptitude Test, and they sent me the test back with the answers. I was shocked. So every Friday, I would take the test and have the woman take the test as well. And it was 4 weeks, and they took the test. And at the end of the 4 weeks, I had 100% placements at jobs at Xerox, Honeywell, IBM, because they passed that test. And so I didn't feel guilty about teaching that, because I'm breaking that glass ceiling apart and getting women hired into these jobs. And a lot of them I ran into years later was still working and still, being proficient and helping other folks as well. And then I started in 1989, I started at Boss as a job developer. And those who don't know about Boss, the mission of Boss is to help homeless, poor, and disabled people achieve health and self-sufficiency, and to fight against the root causes of poverty and homelessness. Boss develops solutions to
Winston, we lost your sound.
You lost my sound? Hello?
No.
Can
Can
Carol,
anybody hear me?
Carol, I think it might be you who
Yeah, I can hear you.
sound. Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Should I keep going? Can you hear me?
Keep going.
Yes.
Okay. BOSS develops solutions to mass homelessness, mass incarceration, and community violence, and is dedicated to the inclusion of people marginalized by addiction, trauma, criminality, incarceration, poverty, racism, sexism, homelessness, and violence. BOSS programs are located in Berkeley, Oakland, Alameda, San Leandro, and Hayward, and serve over 6,000 families and individuals annually. And I worked there at BOSS for over 25 years. And when I started at BOSS in 1991, there was advertising that the university was going to come out and clean up downtown Berkeley. So I went down to our shelter on 4th and Harrison Street, and I said, I need 4 people to volunteer to show up for us to be a part of this cleanup group. And I had a few people say, well, Winston, are we gonna get paid? I said, well, I don't know. I said, hopefully in the future, I just need 4 people to show up. And I had 4 people that showed up. And so I went to the city, and they had a person at Berkeley that focused on homeless people, and they call him the homeless czar, believe it or not. I forgot his name. And I also went to the newspaper, and I had them come out and film homeless people working downtown, helping to clean up the community that people, some were saying, well, they're making a mess. And so we focused on that. And I went back to the city, and I spent $80 up front to get the tools. And I went to the tool library as well. And so I went back to the city and talked to them about the homeless people working downtown. And they gave me a contract for $80,000 to hire homeless people to work downtown. Eventually, that contract went to $450,000 because the program spread from downtown Berkeley to South Berkeley, West Berkeley, and so on, because somebody was going around and saying, well, how come you got people cleaning up downtown and not this community? How come you don't have anybody on Telegraph? So somebody was going around complaining about that, and guess who that was? It was me. You know? And so they expanded our project. So eventually with $450,000, we had programs in Telegraph, South Berkeley, West Berkeley, and we extended it even into Oakland at that time. And so because of that, there's still a program going on now in downtown. You see people with the yellow and black uniforms on. I started that. And we had our last contract at BOSS at 2012, and then other people, they took over that contract. But we were able to help a lot of people get a job started. And just a few weeks ago, I was crossing the street and the bus driver started honking at me. And I said, what are you honking at me for? I'm in the crosswalk. And this guy leaned down and said, yo, Winston, I'm still working. Yo, Winston, I still got a job. So I got him a job like 15 years ago, and that was a good feeling to see somebody that got a job. It's like I say, if you have people that get a job, they aren't trying to pull off a job. And my philosophy about getting a job, well, I'm helping them, but I'm helping me too. Because when I was young and I was broke in West Philly, all kind of things went on that weren't good all the time. So anytime people can have a job and do right, it stops them from doing wrong. So that's why my focus has been on other people at BOSS were helping people find housing, and my focus was on getting people a job, because everybody I get in a Holiday Inn is not going to the San Quentin. So I focus on employment as being a way out of poverty, and also to help our neighbors and help each other. So I'm still involved in that now. I'm still working with people and helping with job programs at BOSS, and every now and then they invite me in to talk to one of their classes about why it's important to have a job and to work. So let me end what I'm saying by saying, you know, right now I'm with the NAACP as a vice president in Berkeley. I would like to invite everybody to join, because the NAACP stands for colored people, and everybody to me is colored people. So expand our outreach to Asians are the largest ethnic group in Alameda County. So I'm trying to get some more Asians to show up, and our meetings are on the second Saturday of the month from 1 to 3. So I would invite everybody who's interested to come and join us at the NAACP. I'm also the board chair of a group called Berkeley Community Media. You know, we have 2 TV channels. Channel 31, we cover the city council meetings, the school board meetings, and other meetings. We also have Channel 28, and they cover the arts and the music and anything that's art related or festival in the community. So thank you very much for your time, and get a job and help somebody else keep one. Any questions?
Thank you.
Unmute and say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
you
You're welcome.
you asked for questions. Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
All right.
I'm from West Philly, okay?
Arlene raised her hand.
I'm from New York and I'm ready too. Okay.
New York, New York.
I got a question. When I look at the BOSS program now, BOSS program seems to be very focused on housing,
Right.
and the systems that are set up for homelessness and housing does not generally include workforce development. Can you tell me when they transitioned over from one thing to the other?
Well, no, I think that they expanded rather than they aren't doing anything. And they were working a lot more now with getting people who were incarcerated, getting them out, getting them their records cleaned up so they could find jobs. And they expanded their program from just Berkeley, Oakland, and Hayward, and they added Alameda, San Leandro as well. So it isn't that they aren't doing a lot, it's just expanded and just spread out wider.
Okay, so there, when the pandemic came and California issued community economic resilience funds, which is for workforce development, right? I don't hear in the continuum of care or any of those organizations participating in this development of the new labor that we have out here. Do you know anything about that?
No, you know, like I
Okay.
said, I'm not working at BOSS full time. I do take a part in the formats when they have guests that show up, and I come up and talk to them about employment and what's going on now. So I haven't been that intact with them, but I am still involved with them, and they are getting people jobs. Like I said, you know, at BOSS in the past year, they've gotten they help new affordable housing in Berkeley for 39 units, in Oakland to Washington 44 units, and they got another program in Oakland called the Black Panther, which is for 79 units of housing. And in the past year, they provided information and resources to over 10,000 community members, and they helped 272 people secure permanent housing. And also we helped 488 people sustain or increase public benefits, and 623 sustain or increase incomes through jobs and other ways, and helped 533 people find or maintain their health insurance. And we provided violence insurance and services to 347 individuals and made referrals for 444. And as employment, we completed 22 employment cohorts with 123 graduates, meaning that they got a job, helping 40 individuals to gravitate to new jobs. And we hosted 410 job fair attendees. So we're still being involved in a lot of things, but it's just spread out, not just in Berkeley, that we've expanded out to all the other entities like Alameda and Hayward and so on.
Alameda County, yeah, okay. All right, thank you. And that's a great program, the Black Panther program. I love it. Thank you so much.
We heard about that last year. When I have my hand up, Winston, because
Good.
I wanted to ask on this, do you think did you ever expect that the numbers of homeless would grow? And, um, and, and at the same time, when you started and Boss started, was what was the atmosphere like then, and has it changed in terms of attitudes in Berkeley? And I'm even thinking from the 60s or 70s. We know that this was a segregated city and it was a challenge sometimes for Blacks to be respected and not just sent out, criminalized and sent out. So I just wonder, how do you see homelessness has changed here in Berkeley? What was it like then? What is it now? Because you were there at the beginning of really the whole, this whole flood.
Well, it started before I got there for sure. But what we did find out, and I told my staff, is that we have people that come in, and there's the have-nots, and there's the can-nots, and there's the will-nots. And the have-nots are people, if you give them some money and training and help them out, they can find a job, get off the street, find a place, stay in a hotel, or a place that we've hooked up, homeless communities, homeless shelter. If you give them a little help, they can gravitate and find a job and become self-sufficiency. And then I have, what people in our community, we call it like the cannot. They cannot help themselves by themselves. They have mental health issues. They have substance abuse issues. And so they need more help, more time, more patience, and more training. And the results are not as easy as if you're just working with people that need some money and training. And then you have the will nots. There's a lot of people that turn down our help. They don't want us to help them. They want to do their own thing. And that has increased to me over the years of why you see so many encampments, and people from Boss, we used to go to these encampments and ask people if they wanted assistance, ask people if they needed training or help or what we could do with them. And sometimes we got a lot of hostile responses from people that are like, man, leave me alone. I know what I'm doing, So that's what I see that's happened, is that, everybody that wants help are trying to give help, but everybody that needs help isn't reaching out or wanting to cooperate with organized organizations like Boss and so on.
Okay, we'll have another chance for questions afterwards. Sure. I have so many, but I'll stop there. Thank you once again.
Sure.
Welcome also, I want to welcome Willie and Susan and Sally Hill and Patrick, other people who've come in a bit later, Miss Celia. So we're now going to turn to our third guest, and let me see about, if you don't mind, I'm going to unpin you and take the spotlight off of you for the time being, Winston, and turn to Sean Scott who's here also. Yeah, I think you said you were third generation Berkeleyan.
Yes, that's correct. Third generation.
Great. So let me see about adding spotlight, pinning you.
I don't know why mine is in a portrait versus a landscape, but it sure is getting on my nerves. It had to be getting on you guys' nerves, because it's getting on the whole. I've been in and out, and then I said, "You keep going in and out. That's getting on their nerves." So I just left it the way that I left it. We just have to
You
work.
Look good. I like your purple.
Yeah, I came into a better area of lighting into the lobby. So I said, let me get it together. Well, hello, everybody. How you doing?
Good.
Well, thank you for having Black Repertory Group Theater on, which means you had me on. And as Betsy said, I'm third generation. My grandparents, a lot of people say, oh, I knew the mother. No, I'm the grandson Although it seems like, I got all these people with all these good looking faces. I don't know if it's oil of Olay or Kambon, but y'all sure don't look that up. I thought it was going to be, the great Panthers was going to be just some old Panthers, all these good looking people on here, So it's a pleasure to be on here with you all. I'd like to do two things, tell you the history of Black Repertory Group, and I can't possibly include everything, but then I'd like to also tell you some of the programs secondarily and the opportunities, and then I guess three things, the opportunity to hopefully be able to utilize some of the new collaborations like NAACP and Black Repertory Group Theater working together and having membership drive at all of the actual productions. So let's start with where Black Rep started. A lot of folks think that Black Rep started on Alcatraz in Berkeley, but that's actually not where Black Repertory Group started. Black Repertory Group started in a little town called in Vicksburg, Mississippi, where two teachers met. My grandfather, Burl L. Vaughn, which the theater is named after when you come into the inside of the building, and Nora Bell Singleton. And they were teachers that were working together in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they got married. And one of the things that they both taught was history. And what they found out, this is pre-Emmett Till, pre-1960s, this is mid-1950s. What they found was that in Mississippi, no one was teaching children about their history, pre-slavery, pre-African Americans in America, pre-ships from Africa to America, all of that. So they decided they would start to teach after school programming that encompassed Lorraine Hansberry, Richard Wright, and a lot of the famous African-American writers, so that children would be able to learn their history. But they said, hey, if we're going to do that, let's do it with the stage plays, with the productions, and let's have them be part of the productions, and then they'll be able to perform in front of their mothers and fathers and neighbors, regardless of race and creed, and be able to feel good about themselves when they receive the applause at the end of the productions. Well, guess what? It took off in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And as the story goes, one evening, a man came up on horseback and came to my grandfather and grandmother's house. And my grandfather, who was a Mason, was outside working on some of the property that they lived on. And the person who was on, a Caucasian person who was on the back of the horse said, Burl, you and your wife gonna have to stop teaching about all of this black, it wasn't black stuff, it was nigger stuff then. Okay, and he knew this man and this man knew him, and believe it or not, they were probably as friendly as you could be. He was coming to give him a friendly warning that the community was uptight about all of this history teaching and this upliftment that they were bringing to the community through the works of these playwrights. And so politely, my grandfather told this man that we weren't going to stop. It was going to continue to go on and on. And they got into a little bit of an argument, and he kicked my grandfather from the horse, and my grandfather slapped him off of the horse in Mississippi. If you know anything about Mississippi in the 1950s, that was a no-no. So he climbed on his horse, and then he later returned an hour later, and they shot up the house, burnt down the house, almost denied me the opportunity to be there, almost killed my mother. And then they left. My grandmother wanted to arm herself, and she wanted to fight. My grandfather told her, no, we're not going to fight. We're going to get out of here. So he brought her to New Orleans, where the Singleton side, her family was, and he ended up fleeing where? To California. And so he went to work on the shipyards, as many did when they came here. In fact, that's what led to his early demise with asbestos. But he went there and he came here to California to make a way for his family. And he sent for his family in 1964. Does anybody know what 1964 was? And the only condition, before you answer that question, the only condition that he had to meet was that the agreement my grandmother and my grandfather had was that the same thing they were doing in Mississippi with teaching history and using the works of great playwrights, they were going to do here, or she wasn't coming back here she wasn't coming up here to California. So he said, okay, that's fine. We're going to do that. So in 1964, she came here. Do you know what happened in 1964? It was the beginning of the free speech movement. Okay, and so as a result of that, they felt comfortable in coming to Berkeley, and actually he built the house that still exists off 66 in Boise. Willie, if he's on the phone, he knows. He comes over there and gets greens all the time. Well, my granddad built that house and sent for his family, but he also built the church that Black Repertory Group came out of, and it was called The Group. That church was Downs Methodist Church on 61st and Idaho in North Oakland, right around the corner from Alcatraz. And so after a while, my grandmother, a couple of years, finally said, well, you can only see the rise and fall of Christ in so many ways. When are we going to get back to doing our history and teaching these kids here who were also not learning about their history, even though it was Berkeley and she was teaching, they still weren't teaching their history. And so they had a group of people that were in the church who were also teachers, and the teachers formed what was called the Group. And that's where Black Repertory Group, the formal name, came from. And so because it was at that point in time secular, quote unquote, they had to spin off from the church. And Bishop Nichols, who also taught, I don't know how far back y'all go in South Berkeley, he taught at the South Berkeley Church down on Fairview. And I guess that's Fairview in California, maybe there is a South Berkeley Church. And so then he taught at Downs Methodist, and he said, we just can't continue to have Langston Hughes and Richard Wright and Lorraine Hansberry. We can't teach that stuff. That's secular. So they spun off and they performed at different places throughout the city of Berkeley. And this is where the development in Berkeley, where the group started to become well known by traveling around to different places, recreation centers, people's backyards, Kilimanjaro House, if any of you go that far back. That was one of their favorite places to perform. And then finally, on their 40th anniversary, my grandfather surprised my grandmother by converting a double storefront at 1719 Alcatraz into a theater. Did any of you all ever go to the little tiny theater on Alcatraz? Yeah, that's some third generation. Even though I'm younger than everybody, that's going back. Well, it was there that Moms Mabley performed, Scatman Crothers, Whoopi Goldberg, Dick Gregory, Maya Angelou. Also, Ishmael Reed started in a program that came out of the Black Rep for people who were unknown playwrights. At that point in time, he was teaching at Cal Berkeley, and he came into what was encouragement. And that encouragement was to be the writer that you are, and I'll put your stuff on stage. And so they formally created a program called New Arts Productions. And it was there that he opened up, now, if you know Ishmael Reed, he's a MacArthur Genius Award now, a Delco winner, et cetera, and many famous things. That's where he got his inspiration, was from my grandmother there at the Black Repertory Group. Well, at that same site, they also opened up programs for youth specifically, because the plays that they went around and performed, Langston Hughes, Richard Wright, Lorraine Hansberry, those plays were actually plays that were performed by adults. So they expanded at the 1719 Alcatraz facility the youth programs. In fact, even one of our city council members, he bragged of the fact that he was in the program. That's Ben Bartlett. And so a lot of people, there's another real famous, spectacular performer, and I don't know if she's still on the line, but she started out there with my grandmother, Offie did. And that's where she got inspired. Offie tells me the story all the time. I think she was almost too young to even be hanging around there. She says, but it was maybe 12 years old or 13 years old. She's probably, I think she may be gone, but there are many people that came through Black Repertory Group, Ron Dellums. So anyway, as they...
She's still on, Sean, just FYI.
Okay.
Offie is still on, just on the phone.
Are you there, Offie? Okay. So many people performed there. Barbara Lee wrote the first grant.
Okay, like, Sean,
Yeah,
I'm here.
Interrupt me. Tell a little bit.
I'm here.
Tell a little bit about how you and my grandmother connected there at the theater.
Yeah,
I got plenty of air to talk. I can pick up where I left off.
Yes, we used to go to Ephesian Church as young people and just sit outside just to hear the music. And then we ran into the Black Repertory Theater. And it was very important to me because, like, I lost my leg at age 11. And I used to, I was going there before, but then I couldn't play ball and run and jump. And at that time, they didn't really have no programs for disabled children. And I would go there and I would just sit there. Now, she was a very stern woman. She would tell you, now, you can come in here, but now don't come in here, acting up. But that gave me when I saw these beautiful Black people on stage acting and performing, and I felt that, well, I could do the same thing, and I don't have to run, jump, skip, catch a ball, or nothing like that. And I did. And that's the beginning of my growth, of becoming an actor and performer. Of course, the history came about, through family and just through study. But
Thank
yes.
you. Thank you. I'm glad you shared that. Because I can't share you better than you can share yourself. And it was there also that we had the 25th anniversary, and Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis nicknamed my grandparents Keepers of the Culture, which is where, Betsy, you get the email from, or you'll see a lot of stuff that'll say Keepers of the Culture.
Yes.
Is synonymous with Black Repertory Group. Well, that came from Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis.
Wow.
So the history is very rich. It was there at that site that also the crack epidemic broke out during the late 70s. And that crack epidemic it didn't decimate, because we're still here, but that had a big effect on the Black community. I hear you all talking about you know, how the Black community was displaced. I saw the Howards on there, and in the beginning of what you showed, a lot of what happened there, and the Black community is owed an opportunity to return. As we were talking about, Willie, if you're still on the phone.
Willie has his hand raised. Excuse me for interrupting.
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah.
Would you want to take a question? I was just
directing that at Willie. Go ahead, Willie.
Willie can unmute, perhaps.
Me?
Come on, Willie.
I am so honored to be around all these historians and great people. I mean, it is just amazing. Because I was trying to get excuse not to be on this call, to be honest with you. Some of you who know me very well knows that I have a passion for Pete's Coffee, and hopefully I'll end up there later this evening. I wanted to really kind of acknowledge and highlight some of the things that actually Sean has been mentioning in the course of, as well as Alfie. I don't know if any of you realize the history that comes out of Ephesians Church, which is right up the street from the small front storefront that actually
is next door
was housed. But the
it's
very fact is that Walter Hawkins. I don't know if any of you know Walter Hawkins, but I'm sure you know Oh Happy Day. That's the origins of
Oh Happy Day, yeah.
And that family has went on to create great deal of works in terms of gospel. In fact, they revolutionized gospel music in terms of rather than circular music. It became very popular by the fact that they were one of the people that revolutionized what gospel music is to this day, actually. They are part of a history because they are part of the growth of what has came out of actually a family that's very prominent that had a diner or dinner diner on 66th Street, right up the street from me, actually. That was part of a history in terms that they moved down, and there were many people who actually dined there for breakfast, actually, who were people like Tiombe Berkeley. I don't know if anyone knows Tiombe Berkeley, but Tiombe Berkeley actually had an office on Sacramento Street. He was the mentor for most of the Black judges that came out of the 60s and 70s. And more important, he was the mentor for many of the prominent lawyers, actually, because there were a group of lawyers. But he was also one of the founders of the Black Caucus, which in some form or another is the reason why Dellums got into office and the reason why Byron Rumford got into office. And I think some of you might note this, and I will, to some extent, I don't want to be too long-winded. The reason why fair housing exists now, which is now receded to very fact, is that we're now back in the 60s where African Americans cannot live in South Berkeley for various particular reasons, and West Berkeley is based on the fact that it was illegal to discriminate. And many of the people who actually live in South and West Berkeley, who actually are now in Antioch and Stockton and Pittsburgh, are those people that were the generation that came like mine, who were basically forced out of Berkeley, because the very fact is that there is the issue of economics, and there's an issue of gentrification, and there's an issue of racism. And I want to basically follow a note, because I think all of you need to know about even the board that I'm on in terms of RCD. There is a gentleman who is going after the Ashby BART station as it stands now.
A developer?
His name is Justin Smith. But he's also working in conjunction with actually Alan Dones. Now, if you're in housing and if you're Black, Alan Dones basically has been doing this generational. And needless to say, he's still basically struggling, and he's done notable work. But the very fact is that they are denying them equity in terms of the building that's going to be built on Ashby if they actually are able to actually basically be able to get the BART contract. Alan Doan is, by the way, already has a contract with West Oakland BART. So we stand by saying that even despite the fact that Black folks have basically built America, built Berkeley, we're still denied equity in it. And that's a shame. So I'm just telling you that you as allies need to step up, not basically stand around and be able to dictate what Black folks, but you need to support them. And you need to basically be able to rise up and be able to confront the contradictions that still exist back in the day, in the 50s, to where it is now in the 2025. We are still in that same rut, and we need to basically acknowledge that. I'm complete.
Well, thank you, Willie. This is Betsy. I'm going to say that I hoped we would get that update about the South Berkeley Alliance and the work that Healthy Black Families is doing, and invite people to go to the opening of the new offices of Healthy Black Families at the Maudel Chirac Apartments. But you're giving it it's not just an announcement, it's a battle cry, is what I'm hearing from you. But if you stick around and want to say a little more about that, right now I'm going to give it back to our guest, just so we can wrap up with him and then open it up for larger questions and discussion. Is that fair to you, Sean?
Who is this guy who was just?
I want to say one thing
that was
about
Willie Phillips. Sorry, go ahead.
If I could say something about the Black Repertory Theater, it's that it's very important that we have them, because when I was trying to share the history of the African American and the European American theaters, they would tell me they didn't mind me playing a slave. But when I would play a queen, they would tell me, oh, no, we don't know anything about, we never heard about her. I never heard about all the European queens, but I didn't diss them. So we need the Black Repertory Theater to promote Black, like I needed Black history when I was a kid. Our school system made me feel so bad about myself as a Black person. We need the Black Rep. They give money to the Berkeley, all of the European American theaters. They give them millions of dollars and won't give the Black Repertory Theater any money. That's got to stop. We need them. I needed them for my health and my mental. I'm talking about my mental health. It made me sad growing up, not knowing any beauty about myself. Okay, I'm through.
Wow.
I'm through.
Wow.
Well, this.
Thank you,
the spirit of altruism weaves its way through the warriors of the community, and it comes out the way that it comes out. And I know everybody that's here, the faces I see on this, what is this called? Gallery view, wouldn't be here if they weren't people that supported the Black Repertory Group and support, us being together. And right now we're in some trying times, more than I would imagine we ever would have returned to. We thought we'd be progressing, but it seems like we're digressing. But I was speaking to Winston and speaking to Willie the other night, and speaking to just about everybody whenever we talk. We have to come together. We got to circle the wagons. But So that's my passionate plea. So just in moving forward with that, it was at the 1719 Alcatraz where a lot of stuff happened. It was a vibrant cultural, I should say, hotbed. And you'd have the people on Progressive trying to out-sing the people at Ephesians. And you'd have the people at Black Repertory Group trying to out-sing both of those churches. And so you had a lot going on that street, but in that, you had a lot of strength. You had Yule's Cleaners. There was another cleaners, African-American cleaners around the corner from there. I'm sure somebody knows the name of it. You know, there were so many thriving Black businesses. Do you all know what was here on and I haven't even gotten into that story yet of how we got from 1719 to 3201, but do you know what was on the corner where the Black Repertory Group, which I'm in right now, do you know what was here? Anybody know? Okay, I'll tell you, it was a community garden. It was an empty lot. And so what happened on 1719 Alcatraz, even though they had programs from the Junior League, the first AIDS prevention program, the first women with women's artistic programs. Even though we had all that going, the fire department came down and said, guess what, you all? It's too crowded in here. You can't get out of here. People could die if there was a fire. So Black Repertory got evicted, so to speak. And so then the mission of my grandmother, who promised my grandfather, who was on his deathbed, dying from the asbestos that it took in his lungs on the shipyard, was that she promised she would get him a more a more solid, permanent theater. And so a lot of people don't know, but I'm here to tell you now that that dream happened. But how did it happen? Well, Sirico, that was called Scott International Research Company. A lot of people say, oh, the Black Rep got that building for $1. Black Rep this, Black Rep that. But what they don't know is Sirico, Scott International Research Company, well, the grant, the RFP that was flown back by Congressman Ron Brown, who died in the airplane, that was written by my mother and my father and some other people from Cal and Stanford. You know, it was a community thing. So it wasn't the city that got the money to build this building. It was the community being led once again by my mother and father. So it took a long time for them to build this building after they actually evicted them out of the 1719 Alcatraz. But they did one thing. They purchased the lot, and then there was a sign out here that many people probably can remember, and it said, future home of Black Repertory Group. Just a big sign, future home of Black Repertory Group. And so there's many.
Listen, I went around as a young person knocking on people's doors, asking them to donate money to Black Repertory Theater.
Yeah.
Including Oakland.
Yeah. See, and there's many people who did that. And a lot of people don't realize in the early, in 1719 Alcatraz, the crowd, if you went to the play, was probably 60% African-American, but you know what the other 40% was sometimes? White people. Who had
probably European Americans, because the European Americans at that time was into equality.
Exactly.
That lived in Berkeley.
And brotherhood and love. And so mostly some Blacks and Jewish people. That you know, some Italians and but mostly Blacks and Jewish people. And some Italians.
And they was from all groups. It was all groups.
You had some Japanese, because there used to be a heavy Japanese density here. But I'm saying when I was a kid and I would go in watching these Black plays, I can remember the composition of the crowd. So don't let the powers that be now separate us on the difference in the pigmentation of the color of our today. Yeah, because it was the togetherness that we had and exhibited that got us to where we're at now. So it's like some people say, oh, your theater or this or that. And I'll tell people in a heartbeat, it's not my theater, and get rid of the why, it's our theater. And so what Willie's talking about is we've got to come together because this is ours. What's left in South Berkeley, this is where the line needs to be drawn in the sand. So don't start getting me on the soapbox either. I'll kind of keep going and sort of bring us to where we're at. I think we're all warriors, so it's a little difficult to not get on the soapbox.
There we go. Well, that's why we are having this meeting. I mean, it's every month of the year that I know that, you know, good folks are fighting to be still visible. The right to the city.
That's right.
Is kind of where it's at. Sean, I know you wanted to announce, and I know I see two hands.
Yeah, and you told me 3, and it's 3:06.
I know.
So
well,
we'll have to come to this meeting again because we're all in love and we ain't even got to what's going on.
You're going to tell us about Saturday night, and I'm going to try to share the poster.
Awesome. You all will have to come down and get the program and what's going on and the fight, your prayers, your support along the way has got us to where the lease has been extended for 12 years. And Afi, well, to give her a big round of applause. And I want her to see it. Where is this? You can't see it, Afi, but you deserve. You are Queen Nzinga of the 2 things.
Oh, thank you, John.
You were standing out there with the dog, and yes, you have one leg. I'm pointing that out. And you were standing on it, okay? Every meeting.
Thank you, Sean.
Every meeting you was there at the city council. And people probably kept saying, Black Rep, every city council, yeah. And here we are. Because if you wouldn't have stood there and we wouldn't have been there, we wouldn't be here. So I'm on to the flower. I love you to death, okay? So,
and I love you. That's why I was out there on my one leg with that dog.
Well, our grandparents are smiling down on us. So we just got to keep it going together. So Black Men Everywhere is a solo play by Gino Piper Ferreira. Okay. And it's going to be on Friday at 7 p.m. And Gino has had he's quite spectacular. I'm not sure if there's anybody here that was at the NAACP meeting last week, but he brought his mom, he brought his wife. His wife's a teacher. She was the principal at East Campus. They don't call it that anymore. BTEC, I think they call it now. And now she teaches at Berkeley High. Well, he had like he was a famous rapper in a famous pop group. And then he came back home to the community when one of his best friends was murdered by the police. And then he was thinking to himself, how can he get this message out to stop the killing? How can he get the message out to come together? And so he joined the police department. And I'm not tell you the whole story, but I'm just telling you the background. He joined the police department. I mean, actually worked as a police for something like 5 or 6 years. And it was just so he could get this perspective on what is going on in the community. And this is post the Fruitvale shooting. Yeah, this is like right after the Fruitvale shooting. Tell me his name again. Somebody, you know. Oscar Grant. Post Oscar Grant, motivated by such. And so you really got to see this piece. He plays 27 different characters. And a man, woman, gay, straight, cop, racist, He plays the whole gamut of the community through 27 characters, and it's just him, and it is phenomenal. Go online and look at Black Men Everywhere on YouTube, and you'll be able to click on the link and see him playing out a few characters, and you can see how dynamic he is. And I would encourage you all to come on down and see the show. I know that some of you came and purchased tickets this morning. God bless you. I know you all got 6 tickets or something. And I would say with them tickets you have, you can make a donation if you want, but I'd say with them tickets, bring somebody free. Bring somebody to see it in addition to them tickets you purchased. I'll allow it.
Indeed.
Okay.
Indeed.
Because this is definitely a piece that needs to be seen.
So thank you, Sean, and thank you, Afi. Thank you, Winston.
Yeah, Winston.
Willie.
And Afi.
And well, we're gonna, Willie has his hand up, so even if
okay,
you're free to go, but if you stick around, there is one question from our board member, Maria Saul, and I know she's gonna be very heartfelt, but.
Okay, well, we're not.
Okay, I'm here.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
And then Gray Panthers will do a slow transition to our announcements, which include about going to the play if anyone's interested, and maybe Willie will make an announcement, or I'll speak for some of the things that are on our Gray Panther plate if we don't have the other updates. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a special meeting tonight. But Mama, you are the queen at those Berkeley City Council meetings. I would just celebrate your existence and your puppy and your 2 crutches and 1 leg, and we would just be dancing in joy and love. So bless you, Mama Queen. And Scott.
Oh,
amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
And Scott, I got to respond to something you said.
Thank you.
Sean Scott.
Really quick, you said, as I know in my grieving heart, that it appears we're regressing. But guess what? Number one, I got to thank all of you for being the original people from whom each and every one of us came. Number one. Number two, if we stop and return to that basic, simple love and community, what we're doing is we've been gestating this bad behavior for centuries, but right now we're in labor. We are in labor, and this is the time for folk like you and us who care to birth this one love, one life.
Amen.
All right, so we can, because it's in us. It's in us. It is us. And we came from that originally. And thank you for still holding it, because you always drop me to my knees in humility for the fact that you have been consistently holding this. So thank each of you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing about it is we have to be careful. I was telling Winston that the other day. Winston and the gentleman we're going to be doing stuff on TV together. But the gentleman that's over at the station, I was saying, they keep telling us we got 7%. And then I was telling Afi, I was like, it's a whole bunch of Black people they don't want to even report to the consensus.
They won't. I tell you, they won't. They're frightened.
So
when doing the Europeans start mounting us.
Yeah, but don't give up. Don't give up on us white
stuff they're feeding us, and that's what you're saying. Don't say what they're telling you. We're regressing. We're in labor.
Oh, yes.
We are evolving. We are evolving, and don't give up on us white folks, because Mr. Brown was white.
Well, that was like John Brown. I fell in love with John Brown.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's why I also brought up what the composition of the crowd was, because I don't want people to sometimes people get to thinking us and we. But if you would be able to go back and look at the crowd and the content and the composition of who supported this along the way, African Americans, Jewish people, Irish people, some Chinese people, it was people, but it was mostly Black and white people. If black people send you, black people say white people, Chinese people say white people. Okay, there's mostly blacks and Jewish people. Okay, and there's a thing, and that's the thing of pride. So I'm bringing that up on purpose.
No, listen. I went to Arkansas. I grew up here in Berkeley. I eat all kind of food. I go to Arkansas. It's only one food. I mean, I love soul food. Let us not confuse the issue. But black, white, green, purple, they all ate the same food.
Yeah.
And I said, where,
like
so I love different.
Yeah.
So gentlemen, I'm going to speak up as moderator and Queen Afi. I'm just going to ask if you want to stick around because we do have some other sharing today, probably.
No, go ahead. You guys go.
And I want you to know it's about defending Medicaid. It's about defending HUD housing in Section 8 because all these things are under attack. But here we are. We're Berkeley and Oakland and Richmond, but a lot of us are in Berkeley. And so we're kind of like the test pot, and what's coming
on our boxing gloves.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to ask Willie. You have your hand up. I know you didn't come to make announcements about the press conference or the business of Friends of Adeline. But I'm going to give you last word as a special honored Gray Panther friend. Do you want to say last words as we close?
No, that was an accident. So needless to say, you have the last word.
All right.
I didn't realize that I had my hand up. So the point is, no, I have nothing to say other than what I've said.
Okay. So I'm hoping we will continue to find ways to support the work of the institutions of the Black community and the incredible leadership and visionary openness that's inspired me. One of the ways we do that as Gray Panthers has been we have a table at Juneteenth. So our board has approved a budget for us to have a table again this year at the Juneteenth festival. Maybe we can share it or use it in a variety of ways. That would be helpful. We also some of us are members of the NAACP, and I think it was mentioned it's the second Saturday of every month. And Winston, Afi, and Sean are now all executive officers, or we think as members. Carol, so I'll just say if anyone else wants to join, this is a good time to join the Berkeley chapter. I think dues are like $25 a year and maybe
35.
35, okay.
30 or 35.
This is sort of boring stuff, but for the national NAACP, it really matters how many members are local. And yeah, I salute the Berkeley leadership. What more do I want to say? Okay, so can we unmute and hoot and holler? And yeah, thank you, Arlene. She's also a member, or going to be. All right, I'm sorry. I'm making this transition.
Okay,
it's such a big transition. But I know. Is anyone else going to see the Friday night? Want to go do another Gray Panther contingent to the Friday night show?
Because you guys supported with some ticket purchase already. Yeah. Just add the free people on there, whoever comes. It's a great show. I'm going to sign off. I love you all dearly, and I hope to see you soon.
I have a question, Scott. Scott, do you have a flyer? How you doing? Do you have a flyer that you can like put in that I can put on like Facebook or
I absolutely have a flyer. Can you send? I see you. Are you left-handed or right-handed?
I am right-handed.
Can you write down the email?
You want me to
can
put
you
it in the
send
chat,
that-
right? You want me to put it in the
She's
chat?
got a flyer, yeah. I can email it though too.
Is this the 100 black men everywhere flyer?
Yes.
Because you emailed it to me, and I can easily, or even we can easily send it to Arlene. But you might also want his email. So if
I
you
want to send
okay.
it to. I want to send it to my the youth advisory board here, and some other groups that might be interested, since it's a subject.
Hey, if you got some youth or something, bring them in here. They can get in free. I was going to tell Winston that I used to have boss used to come here all the time. They'd come on board, and we got to get back into that. Everything's not about money; it's about experience.
Right.
So, gotcha. I took AHIP3 at Yahoo. I'm getting ready to send it. So
we're not supposed to buy anything on Friday.
Yeah.
One of our
well, good.
people
That's
went,
why it's going to be free.
and we're buying it now.
And you already bought it. Somebody came in this morning, bought 6 tickets.
Okay. One of our people went and bought extra tickets a few days ago, so we don't have to buy them on Friday.
Yeah, you guys did. Yeah, that's right. In fact, I think whoever
Be
called
at the theater at 6:45, and I will have the tickets that are on special because we did not want to exchange money to any business on Friday, but you can pay me back. I'm not a business.
Donation.
Thank you.
Donation.
Thank you, Adrian. There you go.
Scott.
Thank you, Adrian.
Scott.
Scott's here.
Okay, this is Miss Cecilia.
Hey.
From the Great Panthers. I just wanted to say your presentation was beautiful, and I would love to have a copy of the history of the Black Repertory Theater.
I absolutely can.
Please.
Yes.
I like to have a copy.
All of y'all to get some season tickets at some point in time if life permits.
Okay, because I have come over there quite a few times for your different plays you all have had.
Yes, I know. Okay.
Yeah.
I hope to see you again, y'all. This weekend, Friday would be the best. But if you can't make it, you can't. But if you can, please do.
Okay. And look, what is the telephone? What is your telephone number?
510.
Wait.
Oh, I can put it in the chat, right?
Wait.
Put it in the chat.
Okay. All right.
Miss Cecilia can't see the chat.
Oh,
okay. We'll get it to her. One of us.
Okay. Take care, Warrior family. Love y'all.
Thank you so much. I love you too. Thank you, honey.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Bye-bye.
Right. Well, wow. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Arlene or Carol, anyone want to wrap up on that? It's hard to shift to like more announcements, but we do have some important other updates.
Well, first of all, just thank you for putting together a great presentation that we were a witness to today. And I'd like to thank all of the guests who have already left, except for maybe one. But now we're going to formally move into our agenda. And presenting Betsy Morris, our co-convener.
I'm actually got to adjust my mind. So if someone has an announcement, I see Hallie had her hand up. And I just want to say there is something on Friday that I'm hoping you'll tell us about that we want to sign up for.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about Friday. All I'm doing Friday is not buying anything.
Okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to let you know, in case you never heard of Faith Petrick. She was the
folk legend.
I guess she was a folk legend in the area here. She was involved in pretty much every progressive movement since like the 1920s. She would be 110 if she was alive today, but she lived to be 98. And they just came out with a documentary movie about her that I went to the premiere. It's called Singing for Justice.
and it's a fantastic movie, and it is going to be on KQED for free. You can watch it on KQED. It's going to be Friday the 4th, and this is for International Women's History Month that they're showing it on KQED. So it's Friday the March 14th at 8 p.m. Saturday, March 15th, 2 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then Monday, 3:31, 11 p.m. And you don't have to remember that. You can just go to the KQED guide and it will give you that information. But it's well worth seeing. You might see a few people you know in it too.
Thanks, Hallie. I'm gonna come back to the activities that our chapter are directly involved in. And Maria, I'm hoping you're telling us about the meeting tonight.
Yes, and thank you for asking me to. At the North Senior Center on Hurst Street and MLK at 5:30. There's a meeting about public safety with the mayor. I was just informed that there's probably going to be hundreds of people there. And so therefore get there early, and they can be rowdy to be sure. And this pertains to the Where Do We Go encampment across the street from the old city hall by the park that's been fenced off because there was an inappropriate groping of an 18-year-old woman by a man. And
it's nothing to do with the camp.
But this is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It was assumed, as per usual, that it had to do with the homeless camp, but it didn't. However, it has provoked the justifiable concerns for safety, because I do believe everyone needs safety. So this is an opportunity to try and come together instead of opposing one another as if we can't all learn how to get along. So you know that I care deeply about this, and you know that I believe that in each of us we have that capacity. So that's what's happening this evening. Another opportunity to come together in unity, community. Because boy, if we don't do that, as Scott said, I mean, it's like we've got to be united. We just do. We can all get along. Thank you.
So the link, there is a request to RSVP if you're coming, which I managed to do, and if space is limited, but I don't have the link to the public safety meeting flyer. It's if anyone has that and can put it in chat, please do. Or what would Maria, do you have the answer to that, or does someone?
Yeah, and I can forward it to somebody. And I did, again, I've been updating this as I do all day long, every day. I just received another announcement of it, so I will forward it. I don't, technologically, Betsy, I'm just horrible.
Well, I wish I could support you right now. I'm not seeing the flyer. If
I will either text it to you, or I will email it to you, or I'll try to get it on the chat. But it is, and I never RSVP. I show up, and I show up early as I have to.
How about if you send it, because I do have it, but if you send it to Carol, anyone who puts their hand up, Carol could email it to them.
I will do that. And do I text her it, or do I? That would be
Carol, what would you like? Are you able to send that out? Is anyone able to go? It's very short notice, but.
All right. So I'll do my very best. And or if I give it to Rains, is he still here? Because he's always.
He's had to move.
All right. I'll do my best. But yeah, I just encourage peacefulness, because I am flabbergasted at how everyone that's really impassioned with what they consider to be justifiable, they must do it peacefully. Otherwise, again, we fight in the name of good, and we've done enough of that, right?
Wow.
So no.
Yeah. I want to thank Michael Hegarty. Thank you. He has put the public safety poster and the invitation from the mayor and Igor Trega he's put it in the chat. If anyone wants it, more can't use the chat, just put your hand up and someone will see it and give you the info. Winston is starting. Okay, thank you for sharing. Winston, did you intend to share?
It was an accident. I'm trying to find out what's going on Friday about not being able to eat. Somebody could update me on that.
Well, from midnight Thursday to midnight on Friday.
Oh,
we're not
okay.
purchasing anything except what's necessary.
Eating is fine. Buying something. It's
okay.
kind of a national starter boycott against
boycott and on behalf of how much we hate Trump, or what? Which one is it about?
Economics. It's about economics.
Yeah.
We don't want to
Economics
support.
in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the update.
So I do want to say Friday at noon.
Would you take the Zoom screen off the shared screen?
I'm going to stop your sharing if that's okay, Winston, but you should be able to put it on again.
Sure. I'm confused. I was just trying to raise my hand and I wasn't able to find the,
got it.
The app for that.
So if I can, maybe I should be more relaxed about all these things. But as you all, I know, we have been flooded with, campaigns and protests and announcements about the White House and the Doge and all the shenanigans going on there. So there's a couple of things that I did, that we wanted to report on, that Gray Panther, some of them are just close to home and some are about that. So on Friday, our allies at CARA, in partnership with our other allies at the Long-Term Supports and Services for All Coalition, which is a very multi-ethnic immigrant, it's caregivers and care providers, care recipients. It's part of the Healthcare for All movement. Anyway, both organizations are putting out the word for a Friday forum. So Hallie, am I or Robert or one of our other CARA, close CARA followers, do you have that information? Because I've received emails about it, but that was last week. It's a Friday forum. CARA does it regularly. You have to sign up in advance, and it's specifically on Medicaid, protecting Medicaid, Medi-Cal, both in California, because there are some budget losses, and then also an update on all the DC efforts. And preventing Medicaid cuts is huge. Unfortunately, the Senate and the House passed a budget that includes $881 billion. Actually, I don't have the updates, but over 10 years. So essentially tax cuts for the rich on the backs of seniors and poor kids, Anyway, crazy stuff. If someone can tell us where to go to find out about that on Friday, hook up with our regular coalitions. Just put your hand up when the time comes. There's also a lot of, let me just ask, Carol, did you have?
Ancestry has a feature where you can colorize your.
Okay, everyone's got their things going on. Carol, did you have an update on, there was, I'm not hearing from Carol.
I'm here. I'm waiting for you to finish the sentence.
Do you think it's, should we talk about the National Council?
Betsy was elected treasurer for the National Council.
No. Secretary, minute taker.
Secretary.
Yeah.
Minute taker. Okay. For the National Council of National Council of Gray Panther Networks, it meets twice a year. We have monthly meetings of the subcommittees, but the National Council meets twice a year. And Betsy agreed to take minutes.
The new chair is a really great guy from, in fact, the new chair, treasurer, and one other officer, vice chair, are from Florida. So really good people. And the issues committee met, and anytime anyone wants to sit in and listens, but we approved. Do you have Randy's report minutes, Carol?
No, I don't. My computer's frozen.
Oh dear. Well, you know, we basically voted, and there's about 22 networks around the country coming back from, you know, people are reorganizing in different cities, including San Diego, including a high school student, a young woman in Austin, Texas, who's trying to start a Gray Panthers club at her high school. So very exciting. One of the issues, in addition, of course, to protecting Social Security, defending Medicaid, is that we are alert to the fact that Trump, of course, wants to do a repeat on destroying the post office. So if you all remember in 2020, I think we went up and protest and did a rally on the bicycle overpass on 80 as part of Save the Post Office. And I imagine there will be some of those, and we're encouraged to think about our own, what kind of protest or rally could we either join or initiate. Margot, you had your hand up.
Take care of event in chat.
Okay, and it's noon on Zoom.
It's at noon on Zoom at statewide legislature, and you click to register.
Is there a website you could name where people could get this info for folks who can't read chat?
I think CARA is not CARA. I don't think it's CARA.com. It's California Alliance for Retired
California
Americans.
Alliance, yeah. Well, if give me a call or email and I can find it for you later, just not right here in the flurry. Were there other hands up? Patrick, I did want to say, Patrick, did you want to speak to your findings about what's happening with HUD and the city of Berkeley on housing issues? I think we may have lost him. So he offered to be our liaison to the Berkeley Housing Authority. One of the things to understand is,
1, 2, 3.
Oh, Patrick,
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah. So the Berkeley Housing Authority presently appears to have received their federal 2025 distribution, and they're okay for now.
Distribution of what?
The allotment, the congressional allotment, they get a lump sum of money to service 1,800 vouchers. So according to the auditor's report, they've already received the money, and it can't be collateralized by the federal government. So at least through the end of the 2025 year, they will be able to maintain current operations. After that, it's not clear what's going to happen. Just to put this in context, there was a 3x3 meeting Tuesday, the 18th of February, with the Housing Authority, the Rent Board, and the City Council. And the director of the Housing Authority asked the city manager if there might be any funds available come 2026 to help out participants in the Section 8 program pay their rent. And the comment from the city manager was that he was facing a $15 million structural deficit, And
Wow.
it was looking like the feds were going to withhold 27 million that they were counting on. So the answer was no, there won't be any money available from the city. So that's the federal funds being withheld are what a lot of housing authorities are up against right now. And, you know, even though the Berkeley Housing Authority is stable for now, all the housing authorities do business with one another. So if one of them starts having problems, they're all going to start having problems. So I just want to give people a heads up. There was I got the email about a HUD action. I just had a chance to look at it, but I would very much encourage the Gray Panthers to support whatever they can in regard to advocating to not cut HUD funding. I believe the date was May 18th that they were going to really start cutting. So there is a little time, I remember correctly, to take some action.
So actually, Patrick, when you're complete, I want to follow up on that if I can take the liberty when you're done. When you're done.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty much you guys stay what I have to say.
Okay. Your voice cracked up, but I think you said you're done.
Yes, I am.
All right. I do want to say, Maria and Margot, you have your hands up. Okay, so but let me follow up on this housing issue. We are in multiple coalitions of folks organizing lobby days and around protecting Medicaid, and also inviting people who are caregivers and care receivers to get video training. If you want any information on that training to tell your story so that you can get used to speaking in public gatherings about why, you know, about that particular aspect of Medicaid or Medi-Cal, as we call it here. But I received a letter from, or an email from the Low Income Housing Coalition, which is a very long-standing and deep-rooted alliance of affordable housing advocates. So, and I have no doubt I'll start hearing about this from others. They have asked if East Bay Gray Panthers, because when I signed up for the coalition, I had an organizational name that I gave them just as an affiliation. And I would like to actually request that our voting members our signing on to a petition. The deadline, this is to oppose cuts at HUD, which involve right now firing half the field staff. And also I know for sure they're selling off HUD buildings that still have what were once called place-based Section 8 vouchers. There's not many, I don't think there's any of those left in Berkeley, but
Oakland has them.
Oh, yes. They were the thing, you know, into the 80s. And then after maybe the 90s, no more were issued. These are attached to the building itself. HUD wants to sell off those buildings, and this is part of the 20 years of privatization and undermining of the whole concept of public housing.
And
so I would,
that has them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's big, and that means likely that those buildings, if this is pursued as a cost-cutting measure, further privatization. So you end up with buildings being owned by private equity investors, or sometimes just for-profit real estate companies that have 100,000 units of housing. This has already happened, you know, in Berkeley with Redwood Gardens and Harriet Tubman being purchased from their originally nonprofit sponsors. So I'm saying too much. I'm hoping two things, that there are no objections to Carol or me signing on to this, what is hoped to be a letter from 1,000 organizations that would be sent next week. That's number one. And then, as Patrick said, our board meeting is next Wednesday, but I would love to have a gathering of our housing team, whether we meet in person or not, but to really go into what do we want to take action, because there is really no one else in Berkeley who might speak up as a whole to protect Section 8. I mean, our council members, our representatives, I believe they will defend it, but I think there may be some things we want to do that they can't do. And you know, many of our members live in affordable HUD housing or are on wait lists for years to get into stable, affordable housing. So,
and if you look at many of the programs for tenants' rights and development, tenants' rights and community organizing are basically seniors that are low-income people, and so it seems like it would
disabled,
behoove us. Yeah, it seems like it would behoove us to kind of reach out to whatever organizations, because strength is in numbers.
So first I wondered either a motion or some, you know, usually the executive committee can endorse things like this, but I felt like I didn't want to just do it privately. Because I feel like it's not just about signing on to that letter. It's by next Monday, but it's also, can we consider a possible, you know, action or campaign on especially around the housing issues.
I propose a motion that we sign on to this to not let HUD do that. However you phrased it more precisely. So I
second
propose
that motion. I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Maria and Miss Cecilia. Are there any questions? And then I'll just say, all those in favor, put your hand up or put it in chat or say aye.
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 And you can do objections, and that would settle that on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe I should just go there. All right. I want to appreciate all those thumbs up and should add my own. Are there any objections or cautions that we should consider? Or are there any nays? Okay, I see some hand raises.
Well, you're talking about them purchasing buildings, but they also
selling buildings.
Selling the buildings, but okay, whatever way. Okay, I'm just saying that HUD also covers the continuum of care, which is the shelters and the various, you know, encampment resolution and various things for people who are unhoused. And so we should expand the picture, not just for that particular thing, because it encompasses a lot.
That is, thank you. You know, HUD also provides a guarantee that allows new homeowners to have their home covered by mortgage insurance. Banks won't lend to you. So HUD has a lot of roles in the housing work. And unfortunately, the MAGA agenda, Project 2025, is to basically phase out public housing. They'll probably keep the homeowner stuff, but we could do more discussion, and then certainly in May and maybe even earlier, we'll be having speakers and sessions on housing. So I see Willie, are you giving us your email? Is there something you wanted to say about this? And
just quickly, I don't like talking. Is it possible for the Great Panthers to send a letter of support for the Adeline Alliance?
Oh, well, that's what I was hoping you would explain a little more. After what we've heard today, shall I just take it, or do you want to actually speak with in your own voice on this? Sounds like you'd.
Well,
let's consider it. Yes.
There's two levels, actually.
Yep.
It's getting basically a contract for BART.
Mm-hmm.
The second level is dealing with RCD and its resistance for giving up any equity in terms of their particular parcel of property. RCD is on board in terms of working with Alliance, but they are not going to share any of the profit revenue. But the important part is getting basically community support in order for basically to secure the basically BART particular site. That's the important part. Because I'm going to have I have a appointment with Dan and actually Friday, so I'm going to hammer him. But the thing is that all this comes all at the same time. It's critical because the due date is March 3rd. I've gotten a cross section of community groups to support, including BCA. But the question is basically when they send this packet out to BART to have a packet of community support.
I see. So folks, I know we don't usually go past 4, but I will say this. So the proposal by development teams to build at Ashby BART, that proposal is due March 3rd. And a special, a group of South Berkeley and, accomplished housing developer, architect, tell me a little more, but there's a consortium and an alliance, the South Berkeley Alliance, that has been working closely with Healthy Black Families and a number of other groups to craft a proposal that will be as much aligned with the Adeline corridor, bring development that will enhance what's already there, and especially the historic Black community. But it's basically a development team or proposal that is most closely aligned with the historic community. And so they're asking if Gray Panthers would write a letter in support of that proposal, and in particular to enable resources for community development, a local nonprofit housing developer, to share some of the developer's fee. It's not really a profit, but I guess it comes out to
more in terms of basically being a partner in terms of the development of the site. There's different portions of this of that they've broken up in terms of sections that each particular entity would have control over. Actually, the nonprofit and supposedly the market rate, I don't believe too much in the market rate, but even with that said, RCD is a partner. Alan Doan's company is a partner. Justin Smith is a partner. Some well-known people that you may know, Peter Wallach is on the architectural team.
I'm going to say too much information, Willie, right now. You know that I've been listening to you for 6 months, but a lot of folks here, this is new. I guess what I would want to work with you is to get the right wording, but let me just ask this again of our voting members, because our board doesn't meet till after the deadline. Is there a motion to support this request? Will Gray Panthers endorse the South Berkeley Community Alliance project team, and along the lines that Willie is suggesting? It'll be the most affordable possible, and we know that other entities in South Berkeley are actually proposing to build senior housing, especially for very low income, extremely low income.
I so move.
Second, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Cecilia. Are there any objections? I hope the parliamentarians aren't going to kill me. Are there any objections or concerns about us taking this step?
No concerns. No concerns.
Okay. Anyway, I mean, we have to be wise stewards of this. But thank you. Maria has raised her hand. What would you like to share?
Just very quick.
Yep.
Homemade Cafe Dwight Way in Sacramento has reopened. That was the
Yeah.
restaurant that used to feed hungry people for free. So shout out to them and please support them. They're open for business again, thank God. And secondly, if y'all don't know, there's an amazing commune co-op down on 64th and off of San Pablo called The Place. It's an eco-village community hub, and it took me in when I was homeless and let me stay there for free. And I hired people from there, and it is lovely. However, they ran into trouble with the city. Some of their tiny, I'm just saying they're open, they're having a benefit to support them Saturday afternoon there. And I really encourage you to find out more about them. They're fabulous. They need our help.
They are fabulous.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, and they've actually housed a number of people who
and they have room for more people with tiny homes since they had to get rid of a few of the tiny homes there. So this is worth supporting because they have housed lots of people and they do great community work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so not hearing any objections or concerns raised. Willie, we're on. And I just, will make sure to check with you about any specific wording. And thank you all.
Okay, I just, before you leave, Bessie, before you leave,
ma'am.
I just wanted to say to you, I will not be able to attend our executive meeting.
Okay.
Next month because I'll be out of town.
That's on March 5th, I think.
That's March the 5th, yeah, because I'll be out of town.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll thank you.
So Mark make excuse for that day.
Oh, you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
That said, I also will talk if any members would like to join that, not join the board per se, but just come to the board meeting, let Carol or me know if you want to explore that. But honestly, I'm really appreciating the fact that we can take, as long as we have 10 dues paying members, which we do at this meeting, we can do business. And I think that's great flexibility.
All right. Okay.
Any other questions or announcements? There's a bunch of things in the chat.
Betsy?
Yes, Carol.
I had two things to report back on. You and I went to the Oakland Homeless Union organizing meeting at Mosswood Park.
Yeah.
That was, let's see, I have the date here, the 15th of February. And Freeway did a very good job of moderating. She went talked to the group of us, and then she talked to the group of people that actually live at Mosswood Park separately. And we got a phone number, contact number for one person that was at the meeting. And then I've been attending BAROW, which is a committee. It's an acronym. I forget what BAROW stands for, BAROW. But we're meeting to talk about Measure FF funds and how they'll be spent to try to ensure safety for seniors and disabled people. And we're going to have a meeting with the mayor's assistant next week.
And I'll add that thanks to our board member, Helen Walsh, was anyone else there? Anyway, I testified on behalf of Gray Panthers because we did vote to support Measure FF and to prioritize fixing sidewalks with an eye to understanding seniors and other pedestrians, as well as like basically fixing sidewalks with the funds before we get to the bicycle amenity improvements, which are general fund.
May I just jump in? Each of us can take note of tripping hazards on any and all sidewalks that we see, because I am willing to go out and spray paint them so at least people can see that they might potentially trip and fall, and then report it to the city so that maybe someday it can be ground down if I don't get to it first. Please, let's prevent people from falling and breaking their hips, etc.
Maria, why don't you put your phone number in the chat so that people can send you that information or text you that information?
Betsy went to the
case.
Commission on Aging or Commission on Disability in the afternoon at that meeting last week. And I went to the commission.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Yes. I went in the evening. You went in the afternoon to the Commission on Aging.
Yes.
Right. And yeah. And Carol's going to take a course in facilitation and sometime in the
I took the class.
Okay. And she's going to be moderating more.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Carol.
I get stuck searching for words, so I'm not comfortable facilitating, but I'm working on it.
So Carol, you can actually now basically facilitate Friends of Adeline meeting too. Thank you.
I'm going to start
off the hook.
I'm going to start with the board meeting with Gray Panthers.
It's
a smaller meeting.
But
we've been having smaller meetings at FOA recently. So
Friends of Adeline as well. But I'm going to get off. I always say that I'm very fortunate to be around all these doers, actually. And again, this will be a time for tremendous change, and we will be part of that change. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys for the walk to the train.
So it's 4:01, and I know I would actually just like to have your patience. Julia, I want to highlight the Berkeley Tenants Union just a minute. And do you want to say anything yourself if you're still? She might have stepped away. I will just say that the Berkeley Tenants Union has stepped up to do actual door-to-door organizing with help from both the rent board members and students at Cal and members of East Bay Democratic Socialists of America. So I don't think there's been an active organizing campaign in a while, but very exciting. There's a building that has signed up with the United Auto Workers and is now Berkeley Tenant Union House number 1. To me, it's exciting to see that kind of work, because that's how rent control was started in Berkeley. There was organizing, there was a rent strike, and it made a huge difference. Can that happen with HUD? I don't know, but it's just good to see this kind of tenant organizing going on actually in multiple parts of California. A lot of it's in Southern California, especially. So
Arlene and I have joined the Oakland Tenants Union.
Beautiful. How you reporting? Now the homeless union is another kind of union that we're excited to see, but that is very small and just getting started. But you want to talk about the Oakland Tenants Union? Anything, Carol?
I'm only signed up for it. I haven't gone yet. I'll go next month.
Okay.
Well, I attended, I told you about, they sent me an email, and it was Tenants Together, actually.
Yeah.
There was a co-writing abolishing rents, and the organizers, one in LA and one in New York, and they were talking about the condition of housing, about the fact that housing has become a product, and many people are suffering as a result of that, and how we could do better if we begin to organize in our communities. And that's what they do. They organize as rent strikes. They talked about movement lawyers, which was really interesting to not hear about law only in the context of benefiting those who are in a position to be benefited, but those who are not in a position. And it was just really extremely educational, because it talked about changing the societal structure of housing in our communities. And it was really an awesome meeting. The first time I had heard these speakers. And so the Oakland Tenants Union, when I went there, one of the things was, how can we begin to reach out to the people on the ground not just the people who run the organizations or that communicate with one another, but we have all of these buildings and we have all of these people that are tenants that live in these communities. So how can we gather them together? And that was just really, it was a profound meeting. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. And
I need to speak in behalf of what you said about the Berkeley Homeless Union. It might be small, but it's mighty. They are there sheltering people, caring for people, providing security for people, advocating for people. They are amazing, and they work with Where Do We Go? So don't underestimate tiny people like me. All right. Bless everybody. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Maria. So I'm going to declare this meeting adjourned, and in that process, our board meeting is next Wednesday, and Carol, I'm hoping to work with you to have a special session around housing and protest response and actions. So anyone who'd like to join that, keep in touch. Wednesday, 2 p.m. perhaps, and at the same Zoom, 1:30 or 2 p.m. So do we have a big giant gavel, or I'll just lift a glass? To the Great Panthers. Oh, and there's a couple groups nationally working on getting a Maggie Kuhn stamp. So that's actually kind of a big deal. Hey, Bob, Leonzo, other people who came for the first time. Anyway, really good to see you. Last words to each other?
We'd like to thank everybody for attending. This was a great meeting, covered a lot of ground.
I enjoyed the meeting and look forward to the next one.
Lee is from our Sacramento member.
And one of the biggest things, like Maria was saying, you know, I'm a part of the Homeless Action Working Group here in Oakland. And one of the things is there's a lot of us doing this work, but we're not united. And so we really, you know, one of my thoughts is how can we consider uniting? There's like a zillion meetings going on, and there's just not enough time, you know, to do all of the meetings and attend all of these things. And many of the times the meetings are covering, you know, if you look across at your emails, they're all covering the same subject matter. So how can we, you know, kind of do better with this?
All right.
I'd like to remind us that Leonzo Herbert has put in the chat that they've been a member of NAACP all their life.
Sweet.
Yep.
A correction there. I signed up. I just joined a few years ago, but I have a lifetime member status. I haven't been a member my whole life, though.
Well, it is playing politics with NAACP.
Oh,
So
okay, she's messing with me. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bob, would you like to share? I guess not, or maybe he stepped away.
I'm going to have to get off because I got another Zoom call. Carol, if you want to keep leading it, go ahead.
No, I have another Zoom call too.
All right. Be well.
Okay.
Be well.
All right, everybody. Ta-ta for now. Have a great day.
Well, be good.
Enjoy this beautiful weather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Goodbye.